Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, I've been looking forward to this particular Road to Macstock interview for a while because we have not just one, but two speakers. We have two speakers that have been speakers now for a while, and they always deliver something really unique on the Macstock stage. And I really mean unique. And that's if you've been to Macstock, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, well, then I'm not going to go any farther. First up, and I'm going just from left to right on my screen, Jodi Spangler. Jodi, welcome. It's great to have you back.
Great to be back.
Yeah, we don't do this often enough, unfortunately. No. And her partner in theatrics, Melissa Davis, the Mac Mommy. Melissa, welcome. It's great to have you.
Yeah, it's been too long.
It has been. It has been. I don't know where the time goes. But you all are just, very busy with different things, but you're not too busy to come back to Macstock again and do another presentation, which I really love.
Yeah.
So
it's like training for an event. It's like our little personal geeky Olympics or something. I don't know.
Okay. All right. I'll go with that. So this time around, you are going to be talking about remote support for seniors, which is a bit different, I think, than what you did before. And it's certainly something that I personally think it probably shouldn't just apply to seniors. It can probably apply to just about anyone in your family if they are across town or across the country. So I'm going to just kind of let you both take off on it and tell me, we don't want to, as folks know, we don't want you to do the presentation here, but let's just talk in general about, what kind of things you'll be talking about and how you go about accomplishing some of this.
After you, Jodi.
All right. Well, both Melissa and I, we do a lot of remote control just because the clientele of users that we train, they need all the help they can get. And sometimes we can't get there. Or sometimes, I have people that are an hour away one way. And like in Michigan in the wintertime, that can be very treacherous. So the more people that we can, help by doing something remotely on their Mac or even on their iPhone or something, the more people that we can help. So that is when we started talking about, as that, we start to do more and more remote control with seniors. We wanted to bring it forward to also, remote control, like with anyone. It could be your mom, it could be your dad, it could be your aunt, uncle, whoever needs help, and you're somewhere else, you can help them.
Yeah, we're kind of hoping that, we use our seniors as kind of not the lowest common denominator, but, pretty much if you can help someone in the senior community, you can take these tips and this information that we share and apply it to other situations with other people. I mean, it may not be the most appropriate in a business setting because there are, higher end business tools that are better for those scenarios. But what we're going to try to talk about is more of the consumer level, something that everybody has access to and preferably free. So Jodi and I we've actually been having fun with this. We've been testing a lot of different things, tools that we've already used in the field in our own capacity and in our own sessions with clients, and then some others that maybe either she hadn't heard of or I hadn't heard of or we just hadn't used. And we've been kind of throwing around all these different things and then really evaluating the merits, really putting these tools through their paces and, thinking, well, okay, that tool, yeah, that might maybe work for like your sister or your brother, but maybe not so much for your grandma, and just really evaluating the appropriateness of each of these tools. And then also the cost. I mean, we want to try to make it as low cost or free as possible. And I always maintain that, pretty much everything that you need comes out of the box when you open up a brand new Mac, and you should be able to use it as such. So I try not to work with too many third-party tools, but there are times when that's appropriate. So that's what we've been evaluating, and we're excited to bring that to Macstock to show everybody what we've been working on.
Now, it's so tempting to ask you to do a summary of those tools, and we're not going to do that because you're going to have to come to Macstock and hear the presentation. That said, though, I think it's interesting, and I'd like to know, are these tools that require a client for the customer to run or the other person, let's say, to run?
It depends. It depends. Some of them do, and that's why we're going to kind of outline, what the consequences are of using those types of tools. You might like that tool, but you need to know that, there's a couple extra steps that need to happen. So, and sometimes it's just warranted. For example, there may be a built-in tool. So I don't want to give away anything else.
Sure.
I'm going to be vague on purpose, but there might be a built-in tool that works really well if it's configured properly, but there might be another tool that just does it without any configuration necessary, or at least a smaller amount, or a different kind of amount of configuration that might be more compatible with the person that you're helping on the other end. And that's something that's unfortunately trial and error. There's no one size fits all. There's one that kind of works for most people, but there's not really a one size fits all. That's why I always say it's very holistic. It's very needs based. You really have to work with the needs of the person on the other end. So in our first Macstock, we did senior moments. So we're going to kind of continue that sort of theme. And it was very hands-on. We were together and doing it. And so this time we're going to continue with the same theme of senior moments, but remotely. So that was kind of the idea behind that.
Jodi, you talked about traveling in Michigan. That's the perfect example. I mean, Melissa's in Arizona. What do they have? Dust storms.
Yeah, they can be bad.
Yeah, but you have ice and snow, and it's no question, it's a real challenge. So I would think that this is even more of an essential tool for you and what you do.
It is, and it also is, not just because of the weather. It's also because of, some of the clients that I do have. Some of them are pretty handicapped. Sometimes they might be sick or something. So I could still help them, and it's a way that you can do that, and you don't have to be physically present. So, and there's a lot of different situations that it could be a win-win for anyone who would do this, because the area that I travel is 100 miles one way and 100 miles back. I can on a daily basis. So anytime that I don't have to do that is a good day for me. So.
Yeah, that chews up time, and of course, time is money. But time in Michigan in the winter, time is also potentially hazardous. Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to equate that far, Jodi, but
I've been in some whiteouts where they were pretty hairy, and I had to go home and clean out my clothes when I got back. But it was not fun.
Yeah.
So, and I'm from California, so I'm not used to this. I'll never get used to it. Ever.
Out here, there's not snow or anything, but there is the heat. So there's a lot of travel that needs to happen in the heat. And while I'm young and spry now, I can imagine I'm not going to enjoy this much later in life. So, but I have certain clients that are only remote. I've met people over the years that have been referred to me by someone else, and I've never even met the person in person. And so I've never even been there to get them set up. So I've had to kind of walk them through the process verbally just to get us, set up, and we'll FaceTime and things like that. But so there's those handful of people too, where you might just, hey, so-and-so does this, and would you like to help them out? And, you never actually get to meet in person. So this is really applicable for those situations as well.
One thing that concerns me, and I want to make sure we try to give some folks some good advice here. First, they need to hire, if they're going to hire you two are pretty credible. And hopefully folks know you and your clients know you, or they've been referred. But if you're going out to try to hire somebody like this, you are theoretically giving them access to your computer if you use one of these services. And sure. I've had that experience at the office where, fortunately, I knew the person we were giving access to. But is there anything they can do to protect themselves? And I'm also thinking, is there a way to make sure that, okay, after they've granted you access, you've done whatever you're going to do, that they can absolutely be assured that they have locked you out or deleted the software or whatever it is it takes to make sure that they're back and private and secure again?
That's a really, really great question. And I wish more people would ask that question all the time. That's one, at least for me, that's one of the first things, especially when it's a brand new person that I'm getting to know, is I always want to educate them and make sure that they feel comfortable in their security. And a lot of times people don't even know what they need until you show them as far as security needs go. They're just not educated on it. They're just not even aware that it's even a problem. I've sat down at clients' machines where they tell me that one of the reasons why they're calling me out that day is because, they dialed up HP support for a problem with their printer, and then this HP support or whoever it would be would dial in and remote control their computer. I sit down and I see terminal is open in the dock, and I see things that are installed that I hadn't installed. I can tell. I have a certain signature. Like, I can tell when somebody's been messing around with one of my clients' systems. I'm very protective of them, actually. And so it really does bother me that they're just letting anybody into their system. So when we start out, I tell them from the very beginning that this is how it's going to work and this is what you should be looking for. And then, for example, like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but that's one of the biggest criteria that Jodi and I have for when we evaluate these services is it secure? But lets you know that it's secure. How does the person on the other end know that it's a secure thing? Like I said before, there are some tools that may be appropriate if they're configured properly. There may be other tools that would be better appropriate if you're having trouble with one of the other built-in tools, but it's not quite as secure in that the person is just like, okay, whatever, here you go, let's have access. Whereas some of the tools give the person on the other end the feeling that they're in control every step of the way, that they are deliberately giving you access to their machine. And you want them to feel that. You want them to know that they are deliberately making a choice each and every single time, that these things aren't just being done for them. And you want to let them know, okay, I'm going to take control of the pointer now. Do you see it moving around on your screen? Kind of ease into it. Don't just start running in and just start grabbing and clicking on things, because a lot of people, their eyes go all over the screen. It's like a fly. They're trying to watch what you're doing and it's making them dizzy. So you just want to go slow. And it's hard, though. That's one of the challenges is getting your brain to slow down enough. As a technician, you're thinking a mile a minute. All these things are going through your brain, and you have to slow it down and get all of the stuff up here to come out of here and into the microphone and let them know. Oh, that's another point, actually. My clients, a lot of them are hard of hearing, and actually adding a microphone, I don't just talk into the built-in mic. I actually use my podcasting microphone, and I have been given compliments that, oh, they can hear me a lot better. So that's another tip that I will give out right now is get yourself a good microphone if you're going to be helping people who are hard of hearing, and make sure that they've got the volume up on the other end before you even begin, because a lot of times they have it muted, and that can just completely stall the whole process.
That's a great tip. Honestly, I wish everyone would get a better microphone. If you're going to do any kind of FaceTime, Skype, whatever, it makes such a huge difference. And obviously, for what I do here, I would prefer that somebody has a nice microphone. But if you're going to do that, But that's interesting. So I get the impression that some of these tools, am I interpreting your comments correctly, that they give tiered access? That, let's just say, if you log into my machine, I might have to click something to give you the power to delete something or install something. And if I don't do that, even though you're into my machine, you don't have access.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. That's good. Do you ever have trouble with any of these utilities or with your clients agreeing to this, or do they trust you enough?
Unfortunately and fortunately, they trust us enough. I say unfortunately because a lot of them are a little too trusting. And fortunately, it makes our job easier that they are trusting, because, that's a lot of hurdles to get through, asking for passwords. A lot of times they don't even know what the password is to be able to move forward, and we have to suss that out, and that takes time. So you have to come to the table with loads and loads of patience. You just have to. There are so many things that we take for granted, and you will just be amazed at the things that, how can you not know that? We enter it all the time. How can you not know that? But it's just something that if they're not exposed to it, it's non-essential information that doesn't hang out unless it needs to be there.
Okay, so you've talked about, I should say we focus kind of on the Mac, but you obviously have troubleshooting to do on iPads and iPhones. Mm-hmm. Do some of these tools or other tools work in the same way, or do you have a different approach to doing that kind of tech support?
That's interesting. I think I always say the future isn't quite here yet when it comes to remotely controlling an iOS device. So you still need the person to be using their finger or their stylus on the other end, and you need for the best, quality experience, you really do need to have an iPad or an iPhone plugged into a Mac and then just use QuickTime. A lot of people know that trick, and that's what we've been focusing on. To my knowledge, and if anybody can correct us, we'd love it. To my knowledge, there isn't yet something that allows you to just remotely move icons around on an iOS piece of glass. That I haven't seen. So you do kind of need an intermediary machine to connect to that helps out with that. Other than that, if you don't have it, like in the case of my dad, who he has a Mac, but it's not it's an old 2007 that just wouldn't be applicable to the situation. So we'll just call it, he only has an iPhone. That is his main squeeze. Everything has to be just over the phone and just verbal. So that goes back to what I was saying again, where you have to get all the stuff up here to slow down enough to come out of here and through the telephone to tell them, okay, step by step what to do, knowing full well that they're like 3 screens ahead of you.
Right. I've seen some articles that suggest that things like Duet can give you a touch screen for your Mac, but you're right. There's nothing that mounts your iPad on, or for that matter, your iPhone on your Mac and then lets you manipulate it the same way.
No.
Yeah, it goes one way, but not the other yet.
Right.
Now, there are tools that you can put on the iPhone or the iPad to manipulate a Mac, but not the other way around.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking screens, but you're right. Screens is designed pretty much to go one way.
Right.
Huh. Okay.
And you can control other Macs from a Mac, but unless you plug in an iPhone or an iPad to a Mac where you're on the other end remote controlling the Mac, that's the only way you're going to see the screen and what the person is doing. So when you tell them, okay, swipe right or swipe up from the bottom, no, you got to put your finger on the bottom of the glass. You got to, again, whoa, ah.
Yeah. Well, and that you alluded to the trick, and if folks, in case you don't know it, is if you plug in your iPhone or your iPad and open QuickTime Player, the current QuickTime Player, not the QuickTime Pro old version, but the current one, you can have it pop up your iPhone or your iPad screen, and then I'm guessing what you do is you use the other tools that let you log into the Mac, and now you're looking at whatever they're doing on the iPad. That's a great idea.
Yep. You can't see them, unless they're FaceTiming at the same time, but I don't think that would work unless they had another device.
We need to try that.
Yeah, right. I know, we're always taking notes like, oh, there's another idea.
Yeah.
Or, if the person had, like, say, an iPhone and an iPad, you could get them to FaceTime with you, switch the camera around, and then, show it there. But, oh, my gosh, that is really, you have to have a lot of coordination to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't even do it very well without, like, oh, sorry, I was over to the left too far. So, yeah, where there's a will, there's a way.
A question for both of you now. We joke a little bit about it, but you've also come to Macstock and you've kind of made your mark as consultants for seniors, or that's what you've talked about principally. I'm going to let you define senior to keep me out of trouble. But what percentage of your clients would you say are quote unquote seniors, and what percentage are just non-tech people?
Mine is like 99% senior. That's 55 and up.
Okay. And any particular reason, Jodi? Is that just something that you focused on, or is it word of mouth that they tell their friends, or what?
Yeah, once my hair turned white, it's like a beacon or something. They can find me. I don't know. But it's mostly, I have done advertising. I started, I taught in night school and, did some other stuff, and they would take iPhone classes. The 35-year-olds weren't taking the iPhone classes at the college. They weren't doing that. It was the senior people that were taking the classes. So, those were the ones that come. Now, I do have some, like a 35-year-old that I've been helping. What I help them is not with all their tech. It's like I've been helping them with photo books and photos. So it will be like a project. Correct. It's a project that they're having trouble with, is when I get a younger crowd that they just can't quite figure it out, because, Apple's really never great at telling all their secrets and how to do these different things. And they just don't have the resources to find out how to do that. So I have, with the younger crowd, I help them with projects. With the older crowd, it's with all of the tech. And it's trying to get things to synchronize. It's trying to get things to talk, because, they'll add that one other device or that one something. And then they say, well, my contacts aren't here, or my email's not here, or something's not there. So it's getting things to talk, getting things to synchronize, and trying to get it to work. But it's mostly the seniors is with the all of technology, and with younger is with a project.
Interesting.
Mine's fairly similar. It's mostly seniors. I do have some younger. I started out with the little ones. Like I always tell people, my favorite age groups are 7 and 77. Those are just the two ends of the spectrum that I just enjoy working with the most, that I feel the most comfortable with. But I do have some in between, and the in-betweeners are, like Jodi said, they just want help with projects, and they know what they want. In the senior land, they don't really know. They know that they need help, and they kind of know how to ask for it, but they don't exactly know what they need just yet. And so you kind of work with them and develop it. And like we said before, they're very trusting. So they kind of just entrust in you. You come highly recommended. They know that they have these issues. They know that maybe they can't access something. And so they kind of, usually the subject lines are help, and that's it. Whereas with someone else in a younger age bracket, it might be a subject line that's, need help with Facebook, or, a project-based inquiry. So those are, kind of the main differences. But both Jodi and I kind of got our exposure in teaching other classes, and then the kind of word of mouth spread. I did the same thing. I taught computer lab to little kids, and then, as I started my family, I taught computer lab on a very smaller basis I taught adult classes, and then it just kind of blossomed from there. And time again, I always hear, I went to the senior center or the public library, but there was nobody to help me with my Mac. It was all Windows based. So that's where it became popular.
Yeah. You two are the perfect people to ask this. We've often discussed it on MacVoices. How do you feel about Macs versus, say, iPads for seniors?
I'm going to let Jodi take that one, because I know she's got a lot of experience with that.
It seems, Jodi, that I think some of the advantages are obvious, and it seems like there are fewer mistakes to make with an iPad. Definitely fewer security risks.
Well, there are, but it's actually on an individual basis. If I have an older user that has been using a Mac laptop forever, since they had the first G4, and then they, migrated to a MacBook, and now they've got, their MacBook Air or whatever, as long as, if they're just used to a Mac, if I throw an iPad in their hand, they're lost. They're absolutely lost. Then they hate it. Then they hate Apple. Then they're mad at the world. So I basically, if whatever that they're used to is what I let them stay with, even if they, get a new Mac and it's like, having a Ferrari on a dirt road, at least they know how to navigate that dirt road with the Ferrari. It's okay. So that's why that, I judge it per, user. And I always tell, my clients, before you buy something, talk to me, because, I will let you know what I think is best for you. Now, if they have an iPhone, and if they've been using the iPhone for a while and they like it, and they've been doing Facebook, and they've been doing their email, because, they really don't do much. They don't need a Mac, because, a Mac's a computer, an iPhone's a computer, an iPad's a computer. They're all computers. So an iPad would work great. I can usually migrate them to an iPad because they're used to iOS on an iPhone. So like I said, it depends. I just would not tell every senior to go run out to get an iPad, because some of them might hate it.
And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, family members get involved, and they have the best of intentions. They really do. They think, oh, wouldn't it be just great if we got grandma an iPad? She would just love it, and we would be able to FaceTime and this and that. But what they don't take into account is people get the shakes. I made that mistake. I thought, oh my gosh, I just thought my Nana was just going to love the whole iPad experience, and she would just be able to swipe across pictures, and it would just, babies can do it. Right? So doesn't that logic just follow? Oh my gosh, my poor Nana. She was like, she had the shakes and she just couldn't hold on to it. I get it too, anticipation shakes. And she was terrified she was going to drop it. And it was not a good user experience. It just wasn't. So I was wrong about that situation. And that's what you learn, unfortunately. And I've watched family members do it time and time again. I'll get a call and I'll go out there and they'll hand me some new gizmo and they'll say, I don't know what this is. They got it for me for my birthday. What do I do with it? It just happens. They have the best of intentions, but it's not always a good fit. It just isn't. And sometimes the old-fashioned way on a keyboard and a Mac is just better. Some people in their they have arthritis, they have, conditions. I know what I've been seeing is as you get older, and this is something we all just need to face, and it happens to some people, you lose elasticity, you lose conductivity. And sometimes you could sit there and say, you just do this, and you poke it and it works. And they do it and they say, okay, I'll just do this, and monkey see, monkey do. And it doesn't work. It just doesn't work the same way. Or they, instead of tapping it, they stab it. There's just all different kinds of things you have to take into account. Like she said, it's as needed. It's on a needs basis, and it has to be that way. There's no one size fits all.
No.
I've seen the stabbing, but I have not seen a situation where. Are you saying that the finger actually doesn't work on the screen? That there's a physiological.
Either it doesn't work on this. Yeah, they don't know how long to touch the screen for. It's just not something that's built into them. And so, like, for one client, I mean, for, another, 2 years or so, she struggled with being able to tap on things. And then luckily, now that is the great thing about Apple products that we so love and appreciate, is the accessibility features that we can tweak to their needs. And so I was able to tweak the touch sensitivity, and oh my gosh, it was great. She could do things she couldn't do before just by making those adjustments. But it is, you kind of have to hold hands and say, okay, try this, try this. It's almost as if you've ever been to the eye doctor and they put the glasses on, you're like, okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, and it's kind of, do you like this? Do you like this? And you just kind of try things until it's like trying on something, and seeing if you get a good fit. But that happens. Touch ID is extremely hard for my seniors. A lot of times it is sometimes we just give up on it. And I've tried the trick where you delete the fingerprints, you add 4 of the same fingerprint. Sometimes there's just not the conductivity that they need. And maybe that'll improve as Apple improves that particular feature. But for right now, it's still kind of hit or miss.
Well, their fingers aren't straight anymore either. If you see an old person, they're curled. Their fingers are curled.
That's why I mentioned the arthritis.
Because of arthritis. They're not flat anymore. And also, they don't have the circulation. So they don't have the blood flow. They don't have the heat in their fingers. They don't have a lot of physiology. Is not what it is in a young person. So sometimes those touch devices, right? It makes it different.
That could be what's throwing off some of the Touch ID in some cases, because it's looking for a pulse, and they have a pulse. It just
kind of.
I'm sorry. You must have a pulse before you call me.
Yes, we have a whole new set of problems.
Right. Well, and that'll be another topic for another time. Is we get into that area of end of life care, and that's, like I said, it's another topic for another time. But that's something that we deal with a lot more and more these days too.
Okay, I can't just give us a taste of that. There are a lot of implications to end of life care. What kind of things are you talking about as Mac consultants?
As a Mac consultant, it's becoming more and more our responsibility to help these people get their affairs in order, basically, with their accounts, their digital footprints, their passwords, password management, account management, having something set up for next of kin so that when that person passes on, the people can then, what was Dad's favorite restaurant? I don't know. We went to 3, knowing what those questions, those security and answer questions are. And so I've been doing more and more of that. And I would love to do a whole topic on that someday, and have that be a focus of how do you help seniors now who are growing their digital footprints. You can't use the same password on everything anymore. Those days are gone. And so now they've got multiple passwords, multiple accounts, they're doing their online billing. A lot of them are married, the spouse is deceased, and then, you can't pay your cable bill, or your cable gets shut off because that person was the primary on the account and they never switched you over. So, I've actually been hired by people who are terminal to care for their spouses after they were gone. They were smart enough to have the forward thinking that they knew that was the eventuality. And so we've kind of picked up and continued from there. A lot of them have photos and projects that they've worked on that they want their next of kin to have. So many hundreds of pictures. I have a lot of photo buffs. And so I'll kind of package things up for, next of kin and, give them that information. So it's a new territory.
Right. And I have it where I have like username passwords. I had a lady who her husband died. She couldn't even get in her bank account. But I had those because he had given that to me before he died. So then I was able to give her what she needed to do all those things because, it usually is if it's a senior couple, 9 times out of 10, it's the male that is the geek in the household. But then when he's gone, she has nothing, and she, is dealing with losing her husband, but also with locked out of digitally, because you can't get in your bank anymore, you can't do anything anymore. So it's like those digital footprint, and their Facebook page, and it's all these different things. What do you do with that when they're dying?
Yeah, they're digital legacies.
Right.
I'm sitting here just a little embarrassed. We've talked about some of that on MacVoices several times, and I guess I never really thought, just something as simple as a password. You can't use the same password everywhere. So you need to figure out a method or a password manager or something. But I don't think I ever really appreciated that for seniors and thinking about it through that lens. So that's we have more talking to do about some of this stuff and more of an appreciation. As technologists, we're very comfortable with the idea. It's like, oh, okay, there's something else that we have to do to keep ourselves safe. And you forget that I hate to say average person, but the non-technologist, that may be a bit more of a challenge. But when you get into seniors, it may be a huge challenge.
Yeah, and you also have to try to get to know their family members if you can. Because the last thing you want to do is, and that gets to be scary. And again, it's a new frontier, is you be a complete stranger and then that person passes on and they find your contact information and then think, oh my goodness, this person has been entrusting this consultant with all of their bank account information. I mean, that's kind of, kind of creepy feeling. So I try to make it a policy to get to know family members and ask them, now look, I realize that you trust me, but is your family going to trust me? And if they don't, I need to know that up front before we get started and before we go down this path, because I want to protect myself too. But it's something that you really need to, broach that question. I've also been asked by people, well, can we do X, Y, Z? And I say, well, wait a minute. How is your family going to feel about that? They haven't thought that far ahead, but I have. So it's something you need to think about. It is. It's a new frontier for all of this stuff.
And I would assume you sometimes get a little pushback because, the senior's like, well, I don't care what my family wants. This is what I want. I'm fully capable of making these decisions.
Or the other direction, where the family member isn't comfortable, or, the spouse or something. One spouse might say, I want help with online banking. And the other spouse says, no. And I say, it's got to be a unanimous decision between the two of you. I can't move forward unless we have that. And then that presents other challenges that you need to work around. So it's the ball, play ball.
lots of little subtleties here, no question. I want to ask you both to let folks know where they can find you, but before that, I want to end on one more note, and I'm going to take it back to security. The whole remote support thing sounds great, and there's so many reasons to do it. But flip it around, remote support may be a good idea or a better idea or a more comfortable idea for many people because they don't have to open that front door. And so that's fine. But again, folks, just please, please, please make sure you're dealing with someone reputable, that you get a recommendation, say, from a local computer dealer or Apple store or someone that's had the experience. Don't open your door, don't open your computer until you know what you're dealing with.
Right.
Jodi, where can folks find you if they would like to maybe hire you or your services, or just find out more about you?
They can go to lakeshoremac.com. That is my address of my website. And my business is called Lakeshore Mac here in Michigan, or Mac Find Her on Twitter.
Excellent. Melissa, how about you?
I'm all over the place. You can find me, the easiest way you can find me is by going to themacmommy.com. And I need to work on my website and get some more, business services there. But that's where I, keep a blog and reviews. I do lots of product reviews and things there. I also have been doing a lot of podcasting. I podcast with my friends over at the Geekiest Show Ever for fun. It's just a fun little podcast to listen to that's really nerdy. But what I'd really like to encourage even my clients and people to listen to is another podcast that I do with David Ginsburg, which is called In Touch with iOS. And you can find that over at intouchwithios.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for this time, and I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation at Macstock. I'm looking forward to seeing all these utilities that you have been testing out and see what comes of them. It should be very interesting.
We can hardly wait to get there.
Yep. So we'll see you in July.
We'll see you in July. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Absolutely. And folks, it would be my pleasure to see you at Macstock. How's that for a transition? Macstock2017.com is where you want to go. You will get to hear from all of the people we've had on the road to Macstock. There's still more coming. You'll get to learn a whole lot of stuff. You'll get to meet some great people, both in the audience and from the stage. And just please come. You'll have a great time. So again, Macstock 2017. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the MacVoices blog, the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.